सबसे राइट में हमारे साथ जगदानंद जी बैठे हुए हैं। जगदानंद जी मेंटर हैं। CYSD ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है उड़ीसा में, पिछले 35 सालों से ट्राइबल, अर्बन, रूरल कई मुद्दों पे काम कर रहे हैं। He is one of the few from civil society who has made it inside the government and has come back. Because there are many who went inside and not returned. For 5 years, he was successfully the Information Commissioner of the state of Odisha. And welcome, Jagdaji. Your experience will be very valuable. Then we have Deepak Sananji, who I just learned is transitioning. He is about to complete his tenure in the government next month. And as we heard from Sindhu Shriji in the morning, he will be a freer bird, as they say after. But his interest and work on urban sanitation in Himachal Pradesh has been very, very significant. And I'm delighted to learn that he will continue his work in urban sanitation, particularly in the area of teaching and training and capacity building. Because as you heard since morning, that's a big gap that we have been hearing. On the extreme left, you have Sheila Patel ji, about whom you got a big detailed introduction in the morning. And Sheila has been straddling the worlds of practice and research and policy. And so it will be great that you are part of the panel. In the previous time when she was moderating the panel, she couldn't say anything. सारा समय moderation में ही निकल गया. So now we can hear you and your experience. In moderation, correct. Or then the new person in the panel, Swami Adityanand Saraswati जी, आप सबसे पहले प्रेजेंटेशन करेंगी परमार्थ केंद्र के माध्यम से जो काम हो रहा है उसके बारे में हम बताएंगी. एंड देन वी विल लिसन टू शीला जी, देन सानंद जी, देन जगदा जी. और मैंने इन सब लोगों से रिक्वेस्ट की है कि ये 7-8 मिनट में अपनी शुरू में बात कहें. बट all of you are going to be a party to this conversation. Two focus areas. One, what are the key elements? वो कौन से मुख्य सिद्धांत या आयाम या पहलू जो हमने इतने इनोवेशन से सुने, करीब 8-9 एग्जाम्पल्स हमने सुबह 10 एग्जाम्पल सुने होंगे, जो हमें लगता है कि महत्वपूर्ण है, क्रिटिकल हैं, जिससे कि अर्बन सैनिटेशन इन इट्स इंक्लूजन एंड एक्सेस एंड इक्विटी के मैनर में इफेक्टिवली किया जा सकता है. एंड सेकंड इज कि व्हाट शुड दिस collection of group of people who are working on the ground in limited areas, sometimes in partnership with others, what should we think of doing so that this conversation we had today, ये जो आज बातचीत हुई है, ये वन ऑफ ना हो जाए. आज मिले, अब अगले 2019 में मिलेंगे टाइप.
So, who can tell me how far a housefly can travel in one day? How far can a housefly travel in one day? Who knows? Yes, yes. 20 kilometers. Anyone else have an idea? Anyone? 30. Well, it's actually, they're really little creatures. They can only fly 3 kilometers. But that's 3 kilometers away from human waste. Now, do you know how much bacteria can be on one fly leg? How much? Anyone want to guess? Yes, it is in the millions. 3 million bacteria per leg. Multiply that by 4. Oh my God. Multiply that by the swarms of flies in India and the swarms of flies in rural India, and we have a problem, my friends. Now's the time. Joe said my favorite thing today. He said, we don't want any more digital toilets. Well, it's true. We need toilets in digits of the crores. Real toilets in the digits, but it goes beyond toilets. We need to build hearts and minds if we're to win this war against waste. The solution to the pollution is nothing more than a revolution, a people's-led revolution that includes all of us, every single one of us in the room. Why did Ganga Action Plan and Yamuna Action Plan fail? Why? There is more pollution after the investment of Yamuna Action Plan than there was before it began. And one of the things we found in our study is that a big reason why is the people didn't care. Sun Tzu says in The Art of War, at the end of the day, when the war is won, the people will say, we did it ourselves. The people will say, the war against humanity or the war against waste, it's still a war. And the people must be able to be enabled to want to say, we did it ourselves. So why is a Swami standing here in front of you and not in my comfy place in Rishikesh at Parmarth Niketan? Let me show you a little quick presentation. We're going to be fast because I don't want people to fall asleep on me. So we're the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance, and we were launched by UNICEF at UNICEF World Headquarters as the first initiative to bring together all the faiths for the single cause of ensuring everybody, everywhere, has water, sanitation, and hygiene. Why all the faiths? Because the world is a world of faith. 83% of the people in this world belong to a faith. 83%. And that number is not declining. That number is rising. And if you look at the census of India, 99% of the people belong to a faith. And I'm telling you, my friends, it is to the faith leaders that people turn in the times of crisis, in the times of questioning, in the times of celebration, and especially in the times of wanting to learn how society should work. The faith leaders have always led the way. We're in proud support of the Swachh Bharat mission. Here's a nice tweet, actually, from our Honorable Prime Minister. He tweeted about us 5 times in one day after one of our major summits of faith leaders. I'll come to that in another minute. A mainstay of our work is policy work. We have white papers and policy discussion papers that come out every year. Here is some of the work of His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswati Ji, who's the founder and chair of Global Interfaith Wash Alliance India, meeting with all the major ministers of India with our policy white papers. On the right, you can see our Honorable Minister of Drinking Water and Sanitation and Technology, as well as our Environmental and Climate Change, MOEF Minister. They're both at GWA events, at Global Interfaith Wash Alliance events. I have my own little triangle. Someone had shown a triangle before, but this is how we believe you can make on-the-ground change. You need behavior change communications. People have to want to care. You have to have access to the right technologies, like the toilets that Madhuji was talking about. And people have to be able to know what they're doing and how to do it. If there's no education, if they don't know how to do it, nothing gets done. Our program's really fast. 2 more minutes so we don't fall asleep. Worship for Wash is what I was just showing you. This is all the faith leaders, from the chief imam of India to the Shankaracharyas to the head of the Golden Temple, the chief Chatagar of the Golden Temple, who's pictured there on the top, in the middle in the white, to on the bottom the Archbishop of Cape Town, South Africa, everyone coming together for this one singular cause in these massive events. Some of these are summits where we're reaching out to the faith leaders and building their capacities, and some of these are massive programs for the public. This is our Swachhata Kranti. This is our social movement. So going from the one step of the faith leaders talking to the ground plan of the people walking. The Swachita Kranti is a way of getting everybody involved. And you can see on the bottom left-hand side, 15,000 people marched with us just a few months ago for toilets, 15,000 people. And on the right-hand side, these are slum little rallies and slums that we're holding, as well as things at the Ujjain Kumbh Mela and other huge events in India. You can see also Global Citizen Concert. We just had a major pledge with about 2 lakh people from the Muslim community all coming together for the same singular cause. Let's be together, make sure we have a clean India, a green India, a healthy India, which means a serene India. This is one of our ads, which we don't have any audio, so I won't show it to you. But we put hoardings up all over at the big events, and we also have ads with Baba Ramdev ji and other very big faith leaders that people love and recognize. And when they talk, people listen, especially from the rural slum areas, the urban slum areas and the rural areas. Let's move on. The impact of GEO is great. In 1 month, we had 1.7 crore people, is it 17 lakh people, 17 lakh people who were able to hear our messages and see our messages. 85% of the people who heard our messages and saw our messages said they were relevant and important to them. 85% of the people. To me, the 17 lakh people saying that is a big deal, and it signifies a lot of what we can do together to change hearts and minds through this faith-based approach. This is our Wash on Wheels program, where we actually have big trucks that go out to the rural areas, showing these videos, doing transect walks, doing all kinds of work to help ensure that everyone understands the importance of improved sanitation. We also are going to the schools and doing a lot of work there. We have a World Toilet College that we are running with the World Toilet Organization from Singapore. We're the first ever bricks and mortar World Toilet College, and I humbly invite all of you to come, teach our classes, attend our classes, send your people our way, and we would be thrilled to help work together to build capacities beyond the faith-based, to just from toilet building 101 to toilet cleaning 101 to other policy-based courses. All of this is being taught, as well as sanitation ambassador courses. We also have a water school program with Swarovski that is going to be teaching all the children of the Ganga Himalayas about water, sanitation, and hygiene, with a focus on the Ganga. It's the first ever water school in the world on the Ganga. We also are in partnership with World Wildlife Foundation that is also running a water school further down the river. And then Women for Wash program, where our ladies are about to start building toilets, and Women for Waterlands, where they'll be doing rainwater harvesting systems. We also do disaster reduction, disaster risk reduction work. So, a little more than 5 minutes, but that was okay? It's okay? Good. So, last thing, how can it be done? Going back to my beginning, we can do it together. Only do it together. I always say in this world, if God meant for there to be one person or even one organization doing it all, there'd only be one person or one organization doing it all. But God has created us. God has given us strength. And I'm telling you, when our hands are together, they're stronger than they could ever be apart. And that, to me, my friends, is how we scale urban sanitation and rural sanitation. And that's how we win the war against waste. I thank you for your time. I bow to you.
I want to bring you inspiration from the other side, not from Rishikesh and from very important spiritual people, but what my colleague sitting there patiently hoping that we will speak in Hindi, are saying. तो हम आप जब हम हमारी कहानी कहना चाहते हैं वो इसके लिए नहीं कि वो कितनी खूबसूरत है, कितनी बढ़िया है, लेकिन ये बताने के लिए, जैसे आज के बहुत सारे स्पीकर्स ने कहा है कि ये काम बहुत सरल है लेकिन बहुत कठिन है, क्योंकि इसमें बहुत सारे लोगों, स्पेशली अर्बन में बहुत सारे लोगों की कोऑपरेशन की ज़रूरत है। और हमारा जो काम ये सैनिटेशन का शुरू हुआ, वो हमारे जो संगठन में महिलाओं थी उनके डिमांड से शुरू हुआ, और धीरे 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 हमने उसमें से अलग अलग तरह के अप्रोचेस किए। अगर आज हम बैठ के देखते हैं तो वो अप्रोचेस अब उसके साथ बहुत सारे नए वाले आए हैं, लेकिन 1984 से 1990 तक ज़्यादा करके शहरों में गरीब लोगों की गिनती नहीं होती थी, उनको पानी चुरा के लेना पड़ता था, और जितने सरकारी टॉयलेट्स थे वहाँ स्पेशली बम्बई में साहूकार बैठते थे। दे वर द मनी लेंडर्स ऑफ द एरिया। वो चलाते थे वो टॉयलेट्स। तो वहाँ से हमारी जर्नी शुरू हुई, और बम्बई जैसे शहर में जहाँ डेंसिटीज़ इतनी हैं, आज अमिता जी आपको बता रही थी वो ड्राइंग, द रियलिटी इज़ कि आपको एक भी चीज़ करनी होगी तो 10 घर तोड़ने पड़ेंगे। तो जहाँ आपको वो डिज़ाइन और कोलैबोरेशन की इशू नहीं है, जगह की इशू है, डिस्प्लेसमेंट की इशू है, और लीगैलिटी की इशू है। तो जो पहले 10 टॉयलेट्स हमने बांधे वो सब इलीगल थे। सरकार को म्यूनसिपैलिटी को बताने के लिए कि where there is no solution, a community solution is good. If you can improve on the community solution and produce improved ratio of seat to people, that's even better. लेकिन हमारी जो उस वक्त की स्ट्रैटेजी थी वो ऐसे थी कि ये काम लोगों को टॉयलेट देने का नहीं है, संगठन बनाने का है, और लोगों को अलग अलग तरीके के काम दिलाने के लिए है। तो मैं 2-2 मिनट के लिए, मीना दोनों जन 2-2 मिनट के लिए बताइए। दे हैव कम हियर not just to listen but to tell you that their organization now bids for tenders against private contractors, and women like her who were relocated single women from very terrible neighborhoods are now contractors and caretakers. And they have transformed not only the lives of themselves and their communities, they are amazing role models for other people. So you tell us how much time we have? 2 minutes.
नमस्ते, मेरा नाम मीना रमानी। हम लोगों को खाली 2 ही मिनट दिया गया है, देखो। अच्छा, मैं यही बोलना चाहूँगी, मैं रेलवे पटरी के बाजू में रहती थी, वहाँ पे किराने की दुकान चलाती थी और होलसेल में गार्लिक बेचती थी, और 7वीं पढ़ी हूँ खाली। अभी बिल्डिंग में रहती हूँ, 97 से संगठन में जुड़ी, और फिर मुझे 3rd फ्लोर पे घर मिला, तो वहाँ दुकान भी नहीं चलेगी और लहसुन भी नहीं बिकेगा। तो मैं बोली अभी क्या करूँगी, तो मुझे मालूम पड़ा स्पार्क में हमारी संस्था में ये कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम मिल रहा है, तो मुझे कैसे देंगे। लेकिन मैंने दूसरे कॉन्ट्रैक्टर लोग से सब सीखा। पहले स्टील बोलेंगे तो स्टील का बर्तन मैं समझती थी, स्टील भी मालूम नहीं क्या किसको बोलते हैं। तो ये सब मैं बहुत मेहनत करके घूमी, दूसरे कॉन्ट्रैक्टर से सीखी सब। ये स्टील बोला जाता है इसको, रेती, सीमेंट, आरसीसी किसको बोलते हैं, ये सब नहीं मालूम था। लेकिन आज की तारीख में ये सब सीखने के बाद में मुझे ये संस्था ने टॉयलेट बनाने का काम दिया, और मुझे पाइलिंग करके ओपन प्लॉट में बनाने का था। तो वो भी नहीं मालूम था कि कैसे होगा। बहुत 2 ट्रक भर के वो मशीन आता पाइलिंग का, और ये 10 पाइलिंग करने का था। मैंने चीटिंग से काम शुरू किया। कोई आने को तैयार ही नहीं कि इतना बड़ा सामान लेके आएंगे, 10 पाइलिंग के लिए हम लोग नहीं आते। तो इसके लिए मैंने दूसरा ड्राइंग लिया इंजीनियर से, और फिर उसको 20 पाइलिंग करने का करके बोला। सामान डालने के बाद में वापस मेरा ओरिजिनल ड्राइंग दिया, भाई अभी ये चेंज हो गया तो मैं क्या करूँ इसके। वैसा मेरा चीटिंग से शुरुआत हुआ जो है वो। तो ये एक हमारे सर का बोलना है कि औरत जो है अगर चाहेगी तो कुछ भी कर सकती है। हम लोग नहीं पढ़े लिखे होते हुए, संगठन का साथ होते हुए, मैं आज ये पुणे, हैदराबाद, विशाखापट्टनम, विजयवाड़ा सब जगह जाके टॉयलेट कंस्ट्रक्शन का काम करी हूँ। और ये एनजीओ को इसलिए काम मिलना चाहिए। गवर्नमेंट से एक ही रिक्वेस्ट है कि कुछ भी आप स्कीम निकालते हो, ऑफिसरों के पास जाता है तो उधर तक ही रह जाता है, लेकिन एनजीओ के पास आएगा तो एनजीओ हमारे जैसे लोगों को बताएंगे, और हम लोग साथ में मिलके कुछ ना कुछ हमको सपोर्ट करेंगे तो हम काम कर सकते हैं। और ये चेन सिस्टम बनता है कि मैं काम खुद मट्टी नहीं उठाई, लेकिन मैंने मेहनत करके कॉन्ट्रैक्टर बन के लोगों से काम करवा के लिया। ये एक इंटरेस्ट था मेरे को, और मैंने ये काम किया। आज 12 से 15 करोड़ का काम मैंने करी हूँ, जो मेरे एक जेंट्स घर में उतना ये 10 साल में नहीं कर सकते, उतना 10 साल में मैंने इतने पैसे गिने और इतना टर्नओवर करी हूँ। तो मुझे अपने आप पे भी प्राउड है और मेरी संस्था पे भी प्राउड है कि हमारे जैसे लोगों को चांस देते। तो आप सब भी संगठन ऐसे ही करते होंगे। 2 मिनट का टाइम इसके लिए ज़्यादा नहीं बता पाती हूँ। थैंक यू, धन्यवाद।
So this is in contradiction to saying that, in the morning, Amita is not here, but there was this discussion about co-opting communities, co-opting NGOs. The point is that if you want change, the change maker can be anywhere. When we started, there were no community. The municipality in Mumbai, which had at that time 400 crores, didn't even spend 16 crores on toilets. And that amount is going up now as many organizations are taking this work up.
नमस्ते, मेरा नाम शांति सिंधे। मैं टॉयलेट मेंटेनिंग करती हूँ। पहला सीबीओ बनाने का काम करती थी, एरिया में जाके कमेटी बनाने का था, क्योंकि मेरा आदमी बीमार होने का वास्ते हम लोग ने झोपड़पट्टी में था। तो बाद में बिल्डिंग में आए तो हम लोग को कोई काम नहीं देते थे, कोई काम करने की भी मैं अनपढ़ हूँ, तो पढ़ी लिखी नहीं है, कैसा काम करेगा, कैसा करके दिक्कत में थी। तो महिला मिलन के साथ में जुड़ी हुई थी, उसके तरफ से मैं कमेटी बनाने का काम में ज्वाइन हुई थी। एरिया में जाते थे, टॉयलेट बनाओ, गंदा टॉयलेट है वो तोड़ के हम लोग बना के देंगे। तो अच्छे से कोई मानते भी नहीं थे, हाँ तुम लोग आए पैसा कमाने के लिए, पैसा लेने के लिए आए, ऐसा बोल के भगाते थे हम लोग को। फिर भी हम लोग बार बार जाके सताते थे उधर पे। तो अच्छा हो जाएगा, आप लोग को लाइट पानी रहेगा, टॉयलेट अच्छा रहेगा, आप लोग को ही दे देंगे, आप लोग ही संभालो करके। फिर ऐसा होते होते मैं उसमें काम सीखी। फिर मेरे को 1200 मिलता था, मेरा 2 बच्चे का पढ़ाई ज़रूरत था मेरे को, तो इसलिए कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ली हूँ टॉयलेट बनाने का। तो 4 टॉयलेट बनाई हूँ। मैं तो अनपढ़ है, मेरे बच्चे तो पढ़ना चाहिए करके उस जितना मेरे को बच्चे को पढ़ाने का उतना मिलेगा तो बस हो गया करके काम करती थी। तो उतना मेरा घर का पूर्ता लेती थी पैसा, उसके बाद मैं काम में लगाती थी। तो ऐसा 4 टॉयलेट बनाने के बाद अभी 2 टॉयलेट मेंटेन करती हूँ। तो केयरटेकर रख के 2 टॉयलेट करती हूँ। एक 44 सीट का है, एक 20 सीट का है। तो उतना मेंटेनिंग 2 परिवार अभी उसमें रहते, मेंटेनिंग करते, उन लोग को भी 2 पैसा मिलता है। मंथली पास देती हूँ, एरिया में 30 रुपया पास है। तो महीने में वो लोग पास लेके खुश हो जाता, साफ सफाई, पानी, लाइट, ये सब सुविधा का। टॉयलेट बनाएगा ऐसे छोड़ देगा तो कोई देखने वाला नहीं है उधर पे, तो कोई तो मेंटेनिंग करने वाला चाहिए। हम लोग एरिया वाला कोई दे देते, कोई जगह नहीं लेते, तो नहीं करते, ऐसे छोड़ देते, फिर हम लोग हाथ में लेते। ऐसा मैं 2 टॉयलेट चला रही हूँ। और मेरा बच्चा पढ़ी है तो ग्राफिक डिजाइनर है वो, मैं उसमें काम करके मेरे बच्चे को पढ़ाए, इसलिए धन्यवाद।
You can see this is a tough act to follow. Between old friends, Sheila ji and Swamini ji, I met in another consultation a few months ago. I'll start थोड़ी एक दुरुस्ती के साथ. राजेश जी ने कहा मैं अर्बन सैनिटेशन से जुड़ा रहा हूँ. नहीं, वास्तव में मैं ग्रामीण स्वच्छता से जुड़ा रहा हूँ. अर्बन से अवश्य जुड़ना चाहिए और कार्य करना चाहिए, और आशा करता हूँ कि और मौके मिलेंगे. ग्रामीण स्वच्छता से जुड़ने में किस पहलू से? आप में से कईयों ने सुना होगा समुदाय संचालित पूर्ण स्वच्छता, CLTS. हाँ, बहुत वर्षों से CLTS से जुड़ा हुआ हूँ. शायद स्वच्छता के कार्यों में वही टोपी पहन के आता हूँ, वो सिविल सर्वेंट की टोपी नहीं. सीख क्या ली हमने ग्रामीण स्वच्छता में, और जो मैं समझता हूँ वैलिड है अर्बन सैनिटेशन में भी, और जो एक तरह से एको करती है सुबह से हमारी सब चर्चाओं में. सैनिटेशन इज द अल्टीमेट पब्लिक गुड. इसका लाभ तो तभी जब सभी अडॉप्ट करें. इसका लाभ तब नहीं अगर हम कुछ लोग बहुत महंगे महंगे शौचालय बना लें और बाकियों का, जो हम हमेशा CLTS में कहते हैं, अगर आप बाकियों का गू खाते रहो. जब तक ये स्वच्छता को हम इंक्लूसिव इक्विटेबल रूप से देखेंगे ही नहीं, इसका कोई लाभ नहीं. तो दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव ऑलवेज अंडरस्टूड एज वन एलिमेंट of understanding sanitation. The second is that this understanding and taking it further is not possible till you have empowered communities understanding their own problem and taking it forward with collective action at their level. As long as we segment this, as long as we perceive this as individual toilets, as long as we perceive this as toilets for some, that some people, and that's one of my greatest criticisms of the 1990 New Delhi Declaration on Water and Sanitation. It actually said some for all. Nonsense. Sanitation cannot be some for all. It has to be all for all. And if we have to take this forward, if you get empowered communities to realize their problems, to understand, to engage in self-analysis, अपना विश्लेषण, अपनी स्वास्थ्य स्वच्छता की स्थिति का स्वयं विश्लेषण करेंगे, तो उससे वो समाधान स्वयं खोजेंगे और स्वयं उसके बारे में कार्रवाई करेंगे. That is what we believe is the essence of taking forward sanitation. And I think that essence for us holds true even in the urban areas. In rural, we have seen it flower and produce and show results across the world. 70 countries now have, in some form or the other, taken up CLTS. In my own state of Himachal Pradesh, when we first introduced it in 2006-07, we had a toilet coverage in rural Himachal of 28%. We took a government decision that there will be no subsidies to target individual household toilets in Himachal anymore. In a matter of 6 years, we moved from 28% to 84% coverage without a single penny being dispersed as subsidies for toilets. I will not go into the recent declaration of Himachal as ODF. It's a contentious area. But the figures which I speak about are valid and true. They are not spurious. So how do we take this kind of understanding? What is it that is holding back this kind of understanding in rural, and more important, today we are speaking in the urban context? I think it's three kinds of issues or mindsets. In a sense, the framework for looking at inclusive, comprehensive, citywide, holistic sanitation has been given by the National Urban Sanitation Policy, which really didn't look at a program. It just said, you want to move forward, look at what are the roles and responsibilities at different levels, and make that happen. So it looked at what kind of role center should play, what kind of role state should play, what kind of role cities should play. What we have done, what we have failed to do in NSUIP is that we, after publishing it, adopting it and publishing it, we forgot about it. the only bit we thought about it was city sanitation plan because we linked it to projects. But we forgot that what does it really say about roles and responsibilities for different levels of government. So what is constraining this? First, as long as we continue to have a segmented project-based approach driven by, as I say, our political economy in India, which, as I was telling Rajesh ji at tea, as long as we think that it is the center's job to think for this whole country, sitting in Delhi and saying, this is what you need to do, and I am funding this through a project, whether, so it's toilets through SBM Urban, and it's sewerage and septage through Amrut, and a smart solution based on GIS through Smart City. As long as I keep doing this, I'm not going to be able to deliver the idea that this is about holistic city sanitation, which the city has to think about for itself. As long as my states do not understand this and do not look at cities as areas which have to be empowered to deliver for themselves, I will not get this. And as long as I don't have the above two, as long as I have the center continuing with its segmented project-based funding for the city and saying, I am thinking for you, impossible to empower a city to think for itself. In our current political economy, these are very tough areas to bring about. Some states are a little further than others in empowering cities, and certainly they will deliver better on sanitation too, in my view. I'm about to end. I just want to say, so what can we do? We need to think, what can civil society, what do donors need to think of? I think we need to think in terms of that we need to continue, we have to do advocacy in these areas. We have to keep trying to push the idea that this is an understanding we need to bring about in the collective mind. And unless we get this understanding, we are not going to make inroads in sanitation. We will continue to have niche areas of doing some slums, doing some bits here and there. But unless we get the city to feel that every slum needs to be tackled by the city, you do not have safety in the city. The city is not safe unless every bit of it is included, every slum is tackled, every household is looked at. Until we get this understanding within the city, we are not going to really make progress, is what we believe. And we need to drive this home at every forum, and we need to bring about and use the tools for advocacy. In my view, if we have to take this forward, at the level of donors and civil society, we have to start at least showing the performance. As someone says, 10%, we are worse in urban than rural in this country, and we don't even realize that. Rural is better at confining excreta and disposing excreta safely today than urban. Many of us know this in this room, but how many people know it outside? Everybody is satisfied with their lovely toilet and don't think about the fact that actually we dispose so unsafely in our cities. I would suspect that if we are beyond 10 to 12% in safe disposal in this country in urban, I would be surprised. I think it's probably less than that. Some cities may be an exception, but even those figures are fudged. I do not believe a single shit flow diagram. The last shit flow, Ms. Khosla will agree with me. I just looked at the net at the shit flow diagram for Agra, which CSC prepared. They say 53% of the waste of that city is safely treated. Can anyone believe it who's been to Agra or understands Agra? So even our figures are fudged on these things. We need good performance indicators. We need an index for this country which really shows us the mirror of where we are. And when we start showing those mirrors and start working on improving that, then we will see that, and if we reward that kind of performance, you will have states willing to empower cities. Until then, they are not going to empower cities to tackle their own problems. And in that context, civil society can really start looking at and hand-holding cities to look at inclusive sanitation. We can address questions later. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think since morning I have been listening very rapt attention of some of the excitements, some of the frustrations, and some of the things which we need to do. But the fact of the matter is, the issue is a very complex issue, and there is an agreement, at least, that it has to be tackled urgently. You know, we can't afford to think and then pass time. So if that is to be done, I'm reminded of 3 stories quickly. You see, one happening in my neighborhood. I live in Bhubaneswar, and in the sewage work in Bhubaneswar started sometime in the year 2005. JNURM, phase 1. And when it finally came to my street, my neighborhood, in the year 2000, towards December 15, after how many? 9 years. And let me tell you, there is no iota of possibility that this is going to be complete by 2030 at least. You know, I don't know when it is going to be complete. So that is the state of affairs. But when it came to my neighborhood, I asked the sewage board people, I said, now this whole thing is being done, and once it is all dug and it's all done, after a few days, when it's all filled up, we don't know what is the quality of the work. So we want to do a quality check actually. What is the concrete quality of the sewage work in my neighborhood? The executive engineer came, he said, sir, the concrete quality is M15. I said, okay, all right, explain me what is M15. So he gave me a complete, specification of M15. I said, can I look at the tender specification of this product, the project? He said, what do you do, sir? I don't have engineers, so we can't do, we don't have sufficient engineers, so we can't do the quality monitoring, the level at which you are aspiring. I said, all right. But sir, sewage work is only done once during our lifetime. It's not going to be happening every 5 years. You dig the whole thing, and so it's once in my lifetime. So if you do not have engineers, I will give you 300 engineers. He said, okay, do you have so many engineers? I said, yes. Give me the tender specification. So 3 days after, he gave me the tender specification and a little details of the concrete quality, that is M15. I photocopied 200, gave it in my neighborhood, had a neighborhood meeting. I said, now आपका घर के सामने जाएगा, थोड़ा देख लीजिए ये M15 क्वालिटी का काम हो रहा है कि नहीं. That is one. Second thing I would request you, because it's a concrete work, curing is our business, because contractors, when it comes to a matter of curing, it's like giving blood by them. Hardly proper curing is done. So curing is your work. I would invite any of you, when you pass by Bhubaneswar, Rajesh Bhai has seen my house, you should come and see the concrete quality in that neighborhood. People come time and again from different neighborhoods to see, bhai, ye concrete quality itna acha kaise ho gaya yaar? So I have learned the hard art. Unless people come in a big way, and there are not enough citizen watch groups, no amount of resource allocation, no amount of tender specification, no amount of technical supervision is going to make it something which you and me would like to dream of. So how do you do that? Second, I have another story. I have seen in my village, Joe Mediath is sitting here, I requested him to do something in my village, but he didn't come. So government did some water. Today in my village, 80% of the sanitation is all done. There is a pipe water layout which is complete, big water tank, there is a chowkidar, there is a pump man, but water has never come out. And this has happened at the peak of my career, when I was enforcing that, it happens on a daily basis. Everybody was serious. Everything was complete. But since last 7 years, water has only come out once, when the Nariyal breaking was done in the village. After that, it has disappeared. How do you justify this situation? So therefore, if I have learnt few things out of this, I think for me, the action agenda, Rajesh Bhai, is accountability issue. It's a big, big issue actually today. If 2019 is some kind of target nationally, and I'm sure it will go beyond, even if it is 2030 also. If we are not able to deal with this accountability issue, I'm sure we'll not be able to deal with the problem which is so complex, which is so urgent. So accountability issue is one. The second thing I have learned from my sisters from Mumbai is the question of ownership by people. Accountability only happens when you own the project. In my neighborhood, it was not easy actually. And this is not a strange story. Many of you have done it in your own way, in your own style. But the fact of the matter is, you see, when it was, the first question, few questions, when curing, etc. is done, I was politely asking my neighbors, when I started curing my own concrete work, two of my neighbors who are very big shots actually in the neighborhood, millionaires, they first came, two of them in the morning, they looked at me, stared at me. He said, साहब आपने क्या पानी दे रहे हैं रोड के ऊपर? I said, मैं इसलिए दे रहा हूँ कि आप भी आ जाइए अपना घर के सामने, आप भी पानी चला दीजिए, प्लीज, शुरू करिए. To break that whole thing and to help them to understand that you are the owner of this sewage line, which is done once in a lifeline, is a big issue. And to do that ownership, the issue which I have picked up from the sisters since morning is, it's a bit of social mobilization. Today, many of us in the civil society, in the NGO work, we have done our social mobilization to some extent, and communities also have done their own social mobilization in their own way. So if it is social mobilization, now the question is, social mobilization is possible. We have demonstrated it. But for a successful social mobilization, the second part which I learned from all of you this morning and from my own experiences, for successful social mobilization, you need a sensitive support system, which Deepak ji brought out. If this support system is not sensitive, then a wonderful social mobilization can fall apart actually. How do you really build that? So therefore, the third thing which I learned is we have to work both at the demand side as well as at the supply side. If we are working on water sanitation issue at the source, so that fecal sludge and fecal waste related issues, which is so big issue, should not be left to the whims and fantasy of the municipalities. But there has to be sufficient public pressure so that, something urgently has to be done. To do that, what can be done? And I'll take 2 minutes if you respect 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes. What can be done? To do that, we need action, implementation, and for action, if the quality has to be ensured through civic groups, through social citizen watch groups, through social watch processes. If we want to really include those excluded, identify the excluded, have them. If we want specific things, I have beautiful toilets in the disaster areas, but little flood will make everything absolutely hopeless. They have never been built keeping the disaster in mind actually. So how do you make disaster resilient, construction, disaster resilient technology, disability friendly? So we need a range of action. We need capacity building. We need sufficient research. And we need also advocacy for changes. If there are no tenurial rights for slum dwellers, where can the toilet come actually? So you need to really, so let us identify that whole issue. And to do that, I think we have to move from isolated action to collective action. We are very good at isolated action. एक गांव में काम करता है, एक बस्ती में काम करता है, तो कितना बड़ा केस स्टडी निकालेगा, ब्यूटीफुल राइट अप, इतना डिजाइन, इतना इनोवेशन किया, वो है. बट व्हेन यू से व्हाट इज द साइज ऑफ योर ऑपरेशन, एक पंचायत में, एक गांव में, 2 गांव में, so therefore it doesn't make any difference actually, right? Maybe donors are happy with that little village, but now donors have disappeared actually. So therefore, for that collective action, I think we need really a group of, like action groups can come together in a network. Action groups, real action groups, real action groups. I'm not talking of the fake groups, so that they can share. Research groups can come together, so that there is a knowledge network. Advocacy groups can really come together, so that they have a desire, they have a very substantive advocacy agenda to carry on. And then we need several coalitions also to work. So how do we really build the networks amongst like-minded entities, around like-minded agenda, around shared issues, and then a coalition to deal with this? I think that is the challenge. And maybe in this next phase we can discuss how to work around those coalition building, how to work around network building, and what is the kind of alliance we need to build so that we can see something during our lifetime. Because our life is not 5,000 years. 5,000 years. So very limited time, we have already done whatever needed to be done. So therefore, it's a very urgent thing, and to do that, we have to really think very seriously how quickly we are able to realign our entities together. How are we willing to forego the copyrights? Actually, there are many good experiments which die out of copyright issues. They say, no, my model cannot be replicated anywhere. If my name doesn't come, it's gone actually. I think we have to forego that copyright issue actually, and get into a shared understanding, shared work, and that coalition building. Thank you.
थैंक यू जगदा जी. आप लोगों ने 4 बहुत अच्छे विचार, सजेशंस, वेज ऑफ मूविंग फॉरवर्ड, क्या लेसन्स हैं वो सुने. लेट मी जस्ट ट्राई एंड पुट अ फ्यू थिंग्स ऑन द टेबल जो हमने सुबह से सुना है, जो अभी बातें इस सेशन में हो रही हैं. कुछ चीज़ें गिवन हैं, मतलब सूरज उगता है और कुछ घंटों बाद डूब जाता है. अलग अलग जहाँ पे आप उस पृथ्वी के किस हिस्से पे बैठे हैं, वहाँ पे सूरज अलग टाइम उगता है, पर वहाँ भी डूबता है. सरकार नीति बनाती है, कानून बनाती है और टारगेट फिक्स करती है. आप बजट जिसकी बनाने की जिम्मेवारी है, इंक्लूडिंग घर का बजट, उसको नंबर्स चाहिए. नंबर्स जो हैं वो विचारों से प्रभावित हो सकते हैं. आप ये कह सकते हैं घर में कि मैं इस महीने क्रिसमस आ रहा है तो नए कपड़े बच्चों को दिलाऊंगा, बड़ों को नहीं दिलाऊंगा क्योंकि बजट सीमित है, पर कहना पड़ेगा कि एक एक कपड़ा दिलाऊंगा. तो मैं इसलिए ये बात कह रहा हूँ कि देखिए, वुली आइड इज़ नॉट गोइंग टू सॉल्व द प्रॉब्लम. वी हैव टू बी रियलिस्टिक. हम और आप भी बैठेंगे सरकार की जगह तो हमें भी बजट बनाना पड़ेगा, और बजट बनाना होगा तो नंबर देने पड़ेंगे. अब प्रश्न ये नहीं है कि हमने नंबर तय किए, प्रश्न ये है कि हम उन नंबर्स तक पहुंचेंगे कैसे, और उनको तय करने वाली जो हमारी प्रक्रिया थी वो कैसे है. तो सर्टन थिंग्स लाइक सनराइज एंड सनसेट आर गिवन, एंड सर्टन थिंग्स आर वेयर देयर इज ग्रेट स्कोप फॉर चेंज. दीपक जी ने लगातार एक फ्रेज यूज़ किया है जिस पे बहुत कम चर्चा हुई है, पॉलिटिकल इकोनॉमी की बात हुई है. तो पॉलिटिकल इकोनॉमी जो है, नेशनल पॉलिटिकल इकोनॉमी एंड देन इन ईच प्रोविंस. इतना इम्पॉर्टेंट और बढ़िया एक्सपेरिमेंट हिमाचल में हुआ कि इंडिविजुअल सब्सिडी नहीं दी गई विद सिग्निफिकेंट रिजल्ट्स, और अब बदल दिया गया. तो अब उस पॉलिटिकल इकोनॉमी की रियलिटी से वी हैव टू लिव विद दैट एंड डील विद दैट. वी कांट विश इट अवे. जो मेरी बात समझ में आई वो ये है कि देयर आर अ नंबर ऑफ वेरी गुड एक्सपेरिमेंट्स, और उन एक्सपेरिमेंट्स में जो इनोवेशन का डायमेंशन है वो 3 चीज़ों को पकड़ता है. एक तो कम्युनिटी मोबिलाइजेशन को पकड़ता है, और उसमें कम्युनिटी मोबिलाइजेशन के जितने भी नुआंसेस हैं, रोल ऑफ विमेन, द क्वेश्चन ऑफ हु डज द मोबिलाइजेशन, उनकी क्षमता वृद्धि, अवेयरनेस कैसे बनती है, वो एक पिलर है. एक तरह से। दूसरा पिलर जो है वो म्यूनिसिपैलिटी है, म्यूनिसिपल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, मेयर, काउंसलर्स, म्यूनिसिपैलिटी जो है वो है। और उसको हमने डिमांड और सप्लाई के तरह से देखा है, बट आई थिंक म्यूनिसिपैलिटी इज ऑल्सो, इफ यू सी इन द नेशनल फ्रेमवर्क आज के समय में, म्यूनिसिपैलिटी इज ऑल्सो ऑन द साइड ऑफ द डिमांड मैनी टाइम्स, क्योंकि इफ वी कैन ऑर्गेनाइज 500 म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशंस ऑफ इंडिया, वी मे चेंज द फेस ऑफ इंडिया। प्रॉब्लम ये है कि वो डिमांड ऑर्गेनाइज नहीं हो रही अभी। And the third pillar in all this is the set of forces which can be called socio-economic in urban areas. क्योंकि अर्बन रियलिटी जो है वो हम सुबह से कह रहे हैं इज डिस्टिंक्ट फ्रॉम रूरल। हम ये भी कह रहे हैं कि अर्बन रियलिटी इज इंक्रीजिंगली डायनामिक, एंड इन अर्बन रियलिटी द पुअर एंड द नॉन पुअर कोहैबिट। आप वसंत विहार देख लीजिए, वहाँ भी आपको टॉयलेटलेस ओपन डेफिकेशन मिल जाएगा, और जो डेजिग्नेटेड स्लम्स हैं वहाँ भी मिल जाएगा। बट these actors, these forces of social economic communities, or the realities of urban spaces, they need to be brought into play. The demand for total sanitation is not a demand only from the point of view of those who don't have sanitation today, because जो बात कही गई कि either you are 100% safe or you are 100% unsafe. It cannot be sum for all, सुबह से जो बात हो रही है। तो if we take these three set of actors in some way within the given political economy जो अपने देश की है इस समय, तो what is it that we can do as a way forward? मुझे लगता है कि हम 3 चीज़ें कर सकते हैं। ये जो आज की वर्कशॉप हुई जिसमें कुछ इनिशियल डॉक्यूमेंटेशन ऑफ स्टोरीज और इनोवेशंस CPR और प्रिया के साथियों ने मिलकर किया, दिस कैनॉट बी once in 5 year exercise. There are many more experiments happening than are represented here, and learning from those experiments needs to happen in a horizontal fashion. लर्निंग करने के लिए दिल्ली आना आवश्यक नहीं होना चाहिए। इनफैक्ट वो हमारी बहुत बड़ी समस्या है कि हमें आदेश लेने भी दिल्ली आना पड़ता है और लर्निंग करने भी दिल्ली आना पड़ता है। ये गोष्ठी आज हो गई यहाँ, बट अगर कभी और गोष्ठी करें तो कृपया दिल्ली में ना करें। लेट इट बी रीजनल, लेट इट बी लोकल, लेट इट बी होस्टेड बाई सम ऑफ द सिटीज़ विच आर ऑल्सो पार्टी टू द वर्क वी आर डूइंग। हर एग्जाम्पल में सिटी की बात आई कि सिटीज़ में हमारे साथ पार्टनर कर रहा है। लेट सिटीज़ ऑल्सो को होस्ट फ्यूचर लर्निंग इवेंट्स। तो एक तो लर्निंग की जो प्रोसेस है वो हॉरिजॉन्टल कैसे स्ट्रक्चर हो, और उसमें ये जो इनोवेशंस हो रहे हैं उन इनोवेशंस की भी बात हो, और उन्हीं प्रोसेसेस से जो कॉमन चैलेंजेस निकल के आ रहे हैं वो हो। जो एडवोकेसी का मसला है उसके लिए 2 चीज़ें बहुत ज़रूरत है, जगदा जी ने भी उसकी ओर इशारा किया। वी नीड रियल टाइम एविडेंस। रियल टाइम एविडेंस मीन्स कि जैसे हो रहा है वैसे एविडेंस। वो हिस्टोरिकल पोस्ट इवेंट इवैल्यूएशन वाली स्टडीज़ आर रेलेवेंट, बट दे डोंट नेसेसरली become useful for those who are mandated to implement a program or a target. उनको जो सीट पे बैठे हुए हैं उन्हें रियल टाइम चाहिए। तो रियल टाइम एविडेंस इज नेसेसरी एंड कलेक्टिव प्रेशर इज नेसेसरी। बिना कलेक्टिव प्रेशर के एविडेंस के साथ होने पर भी एडवोकेसी का रिजल्ट आता नहीं है। नाउ इन द केस ऑफ अर्बन सैनिटेशन इट इज़ पॉसिबल, जो कोएलिशन की बात 1-2 लोगों ने आप में कही है, इट इज़ पॉसिबल दैट म्यूनिसिपैलिटीज़ कुड बी पार्टनर्स इन दिस एडवोकेसी। क्योंकि जो डिवोल्यूशन का काम है, जो इंस्टीट्यूशनल कैपेसिटी का काम है, जो रिफॉर्मिंग द प्रोसीजर्स ऑफ म्यूनिसिपल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का काम है, वो बिना म्यूनिसिपैलिटी के इन्वॉल्वमेंट के, और उनके वो भी दुखी हैं, ऐसा नहीं है कि वो दुखी नहीं हैं, वो भी दुखी हैं, और उनके साथ मे बी दे कैन बी ए पार्टनर इन द एडवोकेसी एफर्ट. जो वेरिएबल मिसिंग है, और दिन में भी पार्टिसिपेशन में भी मिसिंग रहा, उस इशू पे भी मिसिंग रहा, वो जो BMGF की अपनी प्रेजेंटर आई थी, उन्होंने थोड़ा इशारा किया और हमारे साथी ने बोला, वो है दोज हु मैनेज मार्केट्स फॉर फंडिंग एंड मार्केट्स फॉर प्रोडक्ट्स. वो मिसिंग है इस कन्वर्सेशन में, एंड वी नीड टू ब्रिंग देम इन. अगर हमारे को आगे बढ़ना है तो वी शुड आस्क BMGF टू कन्वीन अ डायलॉग विद ऑल पोटेंशियल डोनर्स. अगर उनको कष्ट है कि डोनर नहीं आ रहे हैं और हमें भी कष्ट है, तो लेट देम ऑर्गेनाइज इट एंड वी टॉक टू डोनर्स. इफ देयर आर पीपल लाइक दोज हु आर लाइक फिक्की में एक कोलिशन बना हुआ है, प्रिडोमिनेटली रूरल वाला अटेंशन देते हैं, पर फिक्की वाले लोग हैं, दूसरे लोग हैं, लेट देम कन्वीन a conversation with entrepreneurs and let us explore what kind of ecosystem entrepreneurs need. The reason entrepreneurs are not coming is not because there is anything wrong with the potential. The reason entrepreneurs are not coming is because there are lack of policies, systems, incentives in place which will make it worthwhile. Otherwise, they will come. Agar 10 million households require, sanitation in next 1 year, then, there are many potential big markets there. So those people are not here in a meaningful way. So we need to find a way to get them involved. This summary that I have done assumes those of us who have attended it are interested in carrying forward an effort which is joint, that there is a possibility that we can collaborate with our differences, because if we all were similar, it will be no fun to collaborate. There have been, like Amita ji and couple of other people from SEPT and all have been here, but हम और दीपक जी बात कर रहे थे चाय के दौरान, हमारे यहाँ अर्बनाइजेशन की पढ़ाई भी नहीं होती. अर्बन सैनिटेशन तो बड़ा स्पेशलाइज्ड सब्जेक्ट है. जो आर्किटेक्चर के कॉलेजेस और यूनिवर्सिटीज़ हैं, वो दे एंटर अर्बनाइजेशन फ्रॉम आर्किटेक्ट ट्रेनिंग, टाउन प्लानिंग, बट नॉट अर्बनाइजेशन. तो वाई नॉट वी एक्सप्लोर द पॉसिबिलिटी, UGC वालों को पकड़ें, कुछ MHRD के लोगों को पकड़ें कि भाई अगर अर्बनाइजेशन हो रहा है तो उसकी, सुबह ये सुझाव आया था सैनिटेशन पे स्टडीज़ करने वाले इंस्टीट्यूशंस नहीं हैं, उसकी टेक्निकल कैपेसिटी नहीं है, बट दीज कैन नॉट बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड इन ए सेंट्रलाइज फैशन. अगर हमारे यहाँ 700 यूनिवर्सिटीज़ हैं तो कम से कम आधी तो उसमें से अर्बन स्टडीज शुरू कर सकती हैं. उसके लिए यू डोंट नीड अ न्यू इंस्टीट्यूट फॉर अर्बन. अगर रूरल डेवलपमेंट की पढ़ाई हो रही है 50 साल से, तो वी कैन स्टार्ट ऑन अर्बन स्टडीज़ ऑल्सो. जेंडर की स्टडीज़ के कितने सारे सेंटर खुल गए थे आज से 30 साल पहले. सो इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ आइडेंटिफाइंग अ लेवरेज पॉइंट एंड पुशिंग, बट इट कांट बी पुश्ड इफ ओनली 1 or 2 ऑफ अस हैंग अराउंड. ये कॉरिडोर लॉबिंग की बात नहीं है, ये पब्लिक डोमेन में ओपन ट्रांसपेरेंट वे में रेजिंग कंसर्न्स ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ आवर वर्क ऑन द ग्राउंड कि भाई हम कर रहे हैं, अब इसको आगे बढ़ाना है. एंड मेरा सुझाव ये भी होगा, दीपक जी बैठे हैं, जो बैठे हैं, जिन लोगों ने लाइफ टाइम कम रूरल सैनिटेशन किया है, कि हम उन लोगों को भी थोड़ा अर्बन की तरफ मोटिवेट करें. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि रूरल का काम पूरा हो गया है इसलिए मोटिवेट करें, बट देर आर लेसन्स देयर, देर आर स्टोरीज देयर जिनका कि ब्रिज हो सकता है अर्बन के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में. एंड ए लार्ज पार्ट ऑफ आवर कंट्री इज एक्चुअली पेरी अर्बन. बहुत कम इलाके देश में ऐसे बचे हैं जो प्योरली रूरल हैं और प्योरली अर्बन हैं। एक बहुत बड़ा इलाका है, आप जैसे गुड़गांव से निकलिए और देहरादून ड्राइव करके जाइए तो आप ये नहीं कह पाएंगे कि अर्बन कहाँ ख़त्म हुआ और रूरल कहाँ शुरू हो गया। और ये रियलिटी जो है, ये पूना से बॉम्बे, होल ऑफ केरला, सेलम से चेन्नई टू बेंगलोर लिटरली, एक्चुअली अगर देखा जाए तो दैट होल एरिया which is in between the formal definitions of urban and rural is where much of India is going to reside in the coming period. So I think that we should find a way. मैं अपने colleagues CPR और प्रिया के साथियों से, if you want to say anything in closing before we invite Anshuman to give a vote of thanks, and on my behalf let me thank the panel and invite you to give them a hand.